Anita, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to RX Radio. What is it like being back?
Well, Alex, to tell you the truth, I've never left. I've been here right through COVID, and although I haven't connected much with RX Radio, I've still been connected with you just watching your Instagram feed. So I've never felt that we've been at a distance, and I still continue to see what you've been doing on your Instagram feed.
Awesome. And today we're looking back at RX Radio's history. We're celebrating the third birthday. So if we look right back, we've got a couple questions from reporters. And the first one's coming from Talita, who's asking about when you look back to when you first heard about RX Radio and that a radio station was going to be built inside the hospital. What were your first thoughts?
I was over the moon. I was really, really elated, Alex, because I had been chatting to Gabriel for many years. And, just watching him trying to motivate for such a thing to happen. And so when we heard that it was actually going to happen, I was really over the moon and so pleased. And the reason I was is because I had seen some of the work that the children presenters had done, interviews that they'd done with staff and with other patients, and even the CEO of the hospital, previous CEO. And so I'd really seen the value of what the children could do. And I thought that just looking forward to formalizing it and have a proper physical premises and equipment and resources to do it would really just enhance what we do as a children's hospital.
It definitely has been an incredible journey, and Talita follows up by asking, how would you say the hospital as a whole has benefited from 3 years of RX Radio?
Yeah, it's amazing to think that 3 years has actually gone by, and there's so many different things that have developed. I think one of the things is, as a children's hospital, one of the ideals that we strive for is to try and give children a voice. RX Radio has really come on board with this and given children a voice to talk about how they are impacted when they become ill. And interestingly enough, to also find out how their parents feel when they get an illness, how the family feels, and also how do healthcare workers feel. For me as a hospital medical manager, it's also been important to get feedback from patients on how they were treated when a procedure was done, how they would have liked things to be done slightly differently to decrease the distress that they experience. So it's been a really, really wonderful opportunity to hear children's voices. But it's also been a great place to advocate for children's rights. And I think of so many topical issues, public health issues, where RX Radio has enabled our clinicians to get a bigger voice and to make the public aware of various issues. RX Radio has been a great ally to the service that we provide. I think it's important to let the public be aware of what issues are possibly out there for children, and also how they can reach help. So I think where children who have undergone certain treatments like cancer are able to speak about what they had to go through, how they were treated, it gives other newer children hope of when they are diagnosed with a similar condition, they have some expectation of what they would be going through when they come into the hospital. So I think it's been a great synergistic relationship between the hospital and RX Radio, and really to augment what we do and then to take it on a whole nother spin. So one of the absolute highlights for me was last year was the RX Radio Festival, which was arranged by the children and had children performing, and we had some great performance artists as well. To me, to see the amazing things that children can do, obviously with guidance and support, that was really, really fabulous.
Well, you definitely did the whole full circle there, showing and it's talking about RX Radio and the impact it's had on the hospital. And now looking at the other side of that, Luzuko asks that ever since RX Radio has been established, what growth and progress have you witnessed from the team and the station?
So I was actually watching something on Instagram the other day. I think it was Yusra and her sister, and looking at these two young ladies who have grown in the past 3-4 years, and seeing how confident they are, how well they speak, and how well they are able to get their message across. So for me, if you just as a hospital focus on a child's illness, that's just one part of that child. And I think helping them and supporting them to fully utilize all their aspects is something that RX Radio is great at. So for me, I think that some of the things and some of the training that the RX Radio reporters have undergone have been amazing and taught real life skills. I often sometimes joke with Gabrielle to say, I wish that some of my staff had undergone some of the training. Just skills as to how to speak clearly, how to do public speaking, how to present yourself in an interview. All those kind of real practical life skills are also amazing. And I think when I look at some of the young child reporters, I can see that giving them this thing to do, this other side of their life, it means that they're no longer just labeled as this is the child with leukemia. This is the child with leukemia who's also an RX Radio reporter that has this whole other life. And I think it's really important in terms of holistic child care.
And then, Anita, another question to link into that. You've been talking about how you've watched the growth of RX Radio and you've seen how it's impacted the children. But Blessed asks, how has RX Radio affected you?
Okay, so that's an interesting question, and I can speak about it from a few aspects. So my daughter, who is going to be 13 in October, as she keeps reminding me, actually also did the RX Radio training a few years ago, as her friend was being treated as a patient here in the hospital, and the two of them did the training together, and I could see the benefits that she reaped from being part of that. But I think besides the actual skills and the training she received, it's also being part of the wider community. I've got that family connection with my daughter, but also it's something that's very close to my heart. And as I said, Gabrielle and I have been working on this and discussing this for many years. I think when I started working at Red Cross Hospital in 2008, one of the few people I met was Gabrielle, who I'd actually met previously at a previous job, but talking about the great work that these children are doing and how we can promote it, because I think it's not just for the child reporter, but it's also to support our staff and to improve the kind of service that we give to the patient. So it makes me feel so proud when I see what's happening, and it impacts on me as a human being, and it also impacts on me as a hospital manager to see the kind of work that our staff's doing and how we work together with children in co-creating a better service for the children that we serve.
Wow, Anita, so it's definitely had a big impact on you, and that's what today is all about, celebrating RX Radio, the impact it has had. But just lastly, to end off, something that Gabs always says is that he learns more from children than what he teaches them. So what do you think you've learnt about children while working in a hospital for children?
I think one of the things that I've really learnt and that I see all the time is just how resilient children are. I think sometimes that as adults we get very sucked into things and take things, internalize them and forget about what we do have in front of us. Whereas you look at a child may have a diagnosis and be really ill, but you'll still be able to do something, make that child smile, make them laugh. And it's just really wonderful to see how children are able to bounce back by sometimes really terrible, life-changing circumstances or injuries, and to see how they can bounce back. And I think that's a lesson that we as adults can learn from children, is to never give up. Always think about the possibilities that are there and never label yourself, keep things open and keep your mind open, and always be willing to learn, watch and see how people are doing things differently. And so that's really something I have learned from the children.
Anita, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's been great having you on to reflect on RX Radio, and I hope to have you back soon. But until then, thank you so much for joining us for our third birthday.
It's a pleasure, and I just want to wish RX Radio and the whole team a very, very happy third birthday. I'm a bit disappointed that no one's brought any birthday cake, but in these COVID crazy times, we have to do things differently. But just wishing you all the best for the third birthday and celebrating with you for all that you and the team have achieved in this time.
You're listening to RX Radio.
For and by children.
RX Radio. RX Radio rocks.